these creatures. And then we sort of turned our back. We headed south from Alaska, heading back down south again. Almost a kind of a magical land at the top of the world that we visited. And as we sailed back south from Alaska, the land starts to change a little bit. There's a slightly different feel, a different kind of vibe to the place. And we sailed down towards British Columbia and down towards Prince Rupert. And this was our last day on shore from our cruise. So this was Prince Rupert. And we had the most beautiful day. Blue skies, hot sun. I mean, really hot sun. It felt almost tropical at times. You know, it was really, really hot. A really, really lovely way to end the cruise. And if you hadn't seen a bald eagle at that point, then these were around the town. You only needed to look up at some of the trees along the edge of the shore, and there were the bald eagles there. Or you may have gone on an excursion to see them. But incredible birds to see, kind of, you know, one of the totem birds of America, to see those wild and nesting. They probably had nests and eggs at this time of year. So that was a wonderful thing from a wildlife perspective to see. And then cruising the waters of British Columbia, as we said before, these rolling green hills, emerald green forests right down to the shoreline. And this was Canada's Sunshine Belt. And the skies were almost always clear and blue, so another wonderful place to come and move to as well. I mean, it just out of this world. I'm from Essex in England, and when you're from somewhere like that, anywhere seems fantastic. Honestly, it just, you kind of, your expectations are so low. It's such a horrible, horrible place to live. I would move here in a heartbeat, honestly. But all in all, that was a perfect way to end your vacation. And just to finish on another little quote. When it becomes a dark and damp November in my soul, I know that it is time to head back to the sea. That's Captain Ahab. And I hope very much to see you back on another Princess cruise, maybe back in Alaska. So thank you so much for coming along, and enjoy the rest of your day and a safe journey home tomorrow as well. Thank you. Don't forget, we had a really atmospheric day. We had incredible atmospheric weather. It was freezing. It was so cold out there. The wind and we had the mist kind of hanging over the mountains and over the water, and you really felt that you were up there on the edge of the Arctic. You know, you really had that feeling that you were out in this incredible, incredible place where nobody else goes, really. It's a wonderful, wonderful place to see. It's 3.3 million acres of ice fields, mountains, glaciers, fjords and coastal waters. It's a World Biosphere Reserve, and it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is just a spectacular wilderness destination, and it's quite nice just to look at it out of the window while you're having a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, because it was so cold. As the air comes off the ice and the glaciers, you know, it was really, you really felt that kind of intense weather, and you thought you wouldn't last 5 minutes out there. You know, it's a really proper hostile Arctic environment. And as I think I mentioned probably several times before, these glaciers are all part of the ecosystem up here. The glaciers, they churn up the nutrients from the deep fjords. The ice also brings nutrients and minerals down from the land. And it's all part of this ecosystem. It's a very rich ecosystem, and it's all to do with the nutrients being circled around in a big cycle. So the nutrients sink down to the bottom of the water, and then they're brought up again, and that feeds the sea life, so all the plankton, the krill, and then that's the beginning of the food chain, and then you'll get the fish, the salmon, the whales, the bears. It all kind of circles round and round and round, and these glaciers play a big part in that as well, as they bring these minerals down from the mountains. I love ice, I do. I could talk about it all day, honestly. It's ice and glaciers. So here we were in the inside passage, lots of ice. We had the face of Marjorie Glacier, good old Marjorie. I didn't see any ice carving off. I don't know if anybody else did. It's a bit like waiting at the fair when I don't know if you have those penny machines where you put, or dimes or whatever you put in, the money kind of builds up and you're waiting for it to fall over the ledge, and it never seems to fall over it. You know, just standing there watching, and I didn't see the glacier carve, but it was spectacular. It was an incredible, a wonder of the world to be that close. I don't think many ships this size ever get as close as we did. I think we were extremely close to that glacier, and spent quite a lot of time there. And we were very lucky that at this time of year the harbour seals are on the icebergs, and they've discovered that if they have their young on these icebergs, if they raise their young, they raise them very quickly while they're on the ice. The babies grow up very quickly and then they're off to fend for themselves. But if they do it on the icebergs, it means that the orcas, the killer whales, can't get the young, so they're protected from the orcas, from the killer whales. And here they are, the little harbour seals. You may have seen their heads pop up. They usually just, if you see a little round head pop up out of the water and then go back down again, that would be a harbour seal that you saw. That's pretty much all you see. They just pop up and got very round little faces. And I don't know if anybody else fell for the captain's. The captain's just seen a bear on the port side. Ran over to the port side of the ship, but I didn't see a bear, I'm sure. I'm sure the captain did see a bear, but yeah, I certainly fell for that, running over to the port side of the ship. And I don't know if anybody else did see bears along there, but that is where they hang out. That is where the bears are seen. And as I said, we had the place all to ourselves, which is extraordinary in this day and age, to have the whole area to ourselves. So that was a real privilege, and incredibly well organised by the American National Parks system to license the ships coming and going and protect the area like that. And I certainly saw sea otters along there, so hopefully some of you saw these sea otters, and I love the way they wave at us as we go past as well. They're very, awfully polite little creatures, I think, very polite little things as they wave. So yeah, hopefully you would have seen them. Of course, when you're high up on the deck, they look tiny. They look really, really small, and you think, is that a sea otter? But they were. If you saw the little dots in the water, little creatures floating past, sort of paddling a bit, you'd see a little splash, then they would have definitely been sea otters along there. I didn't see any puffins, but I did see a puffin when we were at sea yesterday. So I'm not sure if anybody did, but they breed along that area. And then we headed down, after Glacier Bay, we headed down to Ketchikan. And again, Ketchikan is another extraordinary place to visit. You can only get there by the air and by sea. There's no roads to Ketchikan. And possibly best known for three things: an incredibly rich Alaskan native culture, salmon, and breathtaking forest scenery. So it's a wonderful place, and Ketchikan is one of the rainiest places in the whole of America, as we found out. And it was proper rain. It wasn't just like the rain that we get at home in England. This was proper Alaskan rain. You know, you really needed to have your full waterproofs on, and that was wonderful to see it. I think I'm really glad that we got to see those different weathers, the icy cold mist up in Glacier Bay with the fog and the mist, and then this really heavy rain, and you can see how that rain makes this part of the world. That's what feeds the glaciers, is the snow up in the mountains. So that will be the snow that creates the glaciers. And then the rainforests, they need that rain for the rainforest. And the streams, they're very crystal clear, cold, fast-running streams that come off the mountains. That's where the salmon need to come back to and to breed. So that rain is wonderful. It gives life and it makes this area what it is. And we had a good sampling of that rain. So although I moaned about it at the time, in retrospect, I'm glad we had a rainy day there. And Ketchikan has the world's largest collection of standing totem poles, and we're incredibly fortunate. It's quite a unique thing. We have on board with us right now a very talented cling clip artist called Tim Flannery. I don't know if you've been up to see it. He's from Ketchikan, so we picked him up. He's on the ship from Ketchikan, and he's creating a totem pole on board the Ruby Princess. So right now, it clashes with this. He's from 2 o'clock until 4 o'clock. He's in the piazza, deck 5, midships. He's there until 4 o'clock today. So please go along. After this, don't go now. Wait for them, and then go after this. Have a cup of tea and enjoy. And he won't get this totem pole finished. These can take months or years to finish, but he's starting it now. So it's quite a unique thing to be part of as he turns this big piece of wood into a totem pole. So that's a pretty unique bit of princess history to be part of, to see this totem pole begun on board the Ruby Princess, and that will stay on board the Ruby Princess now, and he'll come and carve whenever he can and to create this totem pole. And as I said, Ketchikan is the rainfall capital of America. The rain was good. We get the best of Alaskan rainforest in Ketchikan. There's these pristine salmon streams. There's a thriving population of black bears. There's old growth temperate rainforest. There's towering spruce, hemlock trees, about 400 years old around Ketchikan. They can be about 1,000 years old in these very old growth forests, but probably on average about 400 years around Ketchikan. And these rainforests are one of the rarest ecosystems on our planet. They rely on this combination of fjords, glaciers, salmon, bears, all connected together, and you have to have wilderness for all of that to work. And as I mentioned before, they're salmon-fed forests. It's a complete ecosystem, and they're exquisitely balanced. So all these interconnected cycles that support the healthy functioning of Alaska's coastal temperate rainforest. So for years, people wondered why the rainforest grew better around where the rivers were. And they've only kind of recently worked out that it's because the bears eat the salmon. Quite often, at the end of the season, they don't eat the whole salmon, they'll just take a bite and chuck the salmon down. And they wander off into the forest, and what bears always do in the forest, and that fertilises the land. So the bears spread those nutrients from the sea. So it's nutrients that come in from the sea with the salmon, and that spreads around the forest. So it's an incredible system that works here. And we saw the beautiful fjords as we left Ketchikan, still looking out for the bears. And the bears are such a kind of integral part of these forests here. And the salmon, so tasty. I don't know if any of you tried it in Ketchikan, if you bought some salmon or went out to eat, but it is the best salmon I've ever tasted in my life. It really is out of this world. So I can't help looking at salmon and just thinking, oh, they're really tasty, really nice. You shouldn't really do that with wildlife, but I do with salmon. And the bears, this poor little chap, I think it must have been looking at a porcupine. He's got some porcupine quills stuck in his little nose, but wonderful to be here and kind of share the land with